Hey guys, Johnny Quirk back once again here to support your entrepreneurial journey. Okay, cool. So today we have Jessica Ross, marketing expert on the line. Jessica, great to have you here on the Go Solo show.
Thank you very much for having me.
And I'm really excited about having you here today because, you've got a really amazing story about how you set up your business. And also you support numerous other small business owners and entrepreneurs. So I think there's an awful lot to learn for people who are either starting or running obviously a service-based business. You're known for writing edgy content, marketing, and community management. And obviously, you have a thriving consultancy business. But without me fully giving the game away, could you describe exactly what your business is and what it is that it does?
Oh wow! So yeah, that nice tough one to start with because I think I still haven't found my niche yet. I did launch my business during the global pandemic, so I
Yeah.
think my business still hasn't quite found what it wants to be. But as you mentioned, a lot of it is around that content marketing, copywriting as well as a big part of my business. But ultimately, it's about supporting businesses to improve their brand message and actually help communicate that out to their customers, whether that's to drive traffic, inspire purchases, or ultimately just grow their brand awareness. But it's for me is yeah, it's been a bit of a roller coaster kind of 12 months,
Yeah.
like so many other people. But yeah, there's been a lot going on.
We're going to dig into that. And to be quite honest, I love what you just said. It's like I built or started my business during the global pandemic. It's like, what a time to start it. There's opportunities, there's problems, but, what a great time to actually do it because, it's the Wild West out there right now. Anybody can feel empowered to do anything. In essence, what is the service or product that you sell and who are your actual customers? So, when I say service product, it's like, are they one-offs? Do you do stuff on retainer? Is it contract subscription based? What's your USP to your customers?
So in terms of kind of what I'm selling, I'd say it's me
Yeah.
ultimately, more than the actual service, because people buy into me, and I think that's one of the things that I've really pushed hard over the last 12 months. People can go to any agency or any freelancer for exactly the same services. So whether that's community management, copywriting, social media, marketing, but ultimately it's me that they like, it's me that they trust to get the job done quickly, efficiently. I hit the ground running because I have the experience with so many other brands. I can just slot right in, and that's
Yeah.
what a lot of brands are missing at the moment. They've made a lot of brands have made marketing teams redundant, which means there's big gaps. So
Yeah.
they maybe have the plans and they just need someone to come in and execute it. And I can just do that with no questions asked really quickly. But in terms of sort of industries that I support, it's really varied. I do have a lot of work with recruitment
Mm.
based companies just because of my background in recruitment marketing. But there's also fitness, there's chocolate, there's publishing, there's everything. So
Wow.
as I say, haven't found my niche yet.
But that's a nice place to be because, like we talk with numerous entrepreneurs on this show. And, I think for some of them are a bit more advanced than yourself, like as in have been doing it maybe for 3, 4, 5 years. They're a bit like yourself where you are now. They kind of took on all sorts of clients to find their niche. But now, with being established, they've got past that scary first few years where you're unsure what's going to happen around the next corner, and they've built up a decent, client base. They were able to specialize and find that niche. And that's actually what wins for them in terms of developing the company as well.
Yeah, no, I definitely want to eventually niche down further. I'm
Yeah.
thinking that my niche will just find me over time. But certainly, I mean, I've only been doing this full time, self-employed for kind of 6, 7 months. And it's been a real mix. Have got clients on long contracts. I
Yeah.
do retainer work, but I also do the ad hoc pieces, because I've got my fingers in a lot of different pies from just previous working experience. So I also do ad hoc website design, random bits and bobs like that
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
just help keep things going. Because I think when you are an entrepreneur, and especially starting out at the very beginning, and you're looking at, what you used to make in a full-time job,
Yeah.
and you have to take everything off of that, you want to make the most of it. But ultimately, that's about helping build your connections out and your skills as well.
I think you're right. And, you're never too sure in terms of these early days, like where this will lead to. Like you said, that niche may find you, have the opportunity to build that out. And like you said, if you're not basically casting a far net, then there's no point in being so niche if you're actually going down one rabbit hole and
Yeah.
realizing the demand isn't there. What I thought was actually really great about your website is that you're very transparent about pricing as well. I think with a number of kind of service-based entrepreneurs or, kind of like consultancy services, there has to be a next step in terms of like, oh, well, how much do you charge or whatever? You're exceptionally kind of like transparent about what you charge. Was that a conscious decision, or were you just like, I can't be bothered fielding so many kind of inquiries?
It definitely helps with pre-qualification, I think, probably, and certainly from looking at, the data on my website, there are people that leave the page when they see that, and that's
Yeah.
fine. But I think when I first started out, my prices were very different to what they are now.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was just kind of not really thinking about the fact that, tax comes off and national insurance comes off and all your expenses come off, and you forget
Yeah.
it's not the same as like what a day rate would be in a job. So there's a lot of tinkering and figuring things out on that side. But I think ultimately for me, it's about just saying, this is my value and this is what I'm worth. And it's not even just about, this is the cost of the time it will take me, because it's always that sort of cliche of, it's not about the time it takes me to do it. It's the 15 years it's taken me to learn how to do it into 10 minutes.
Yeah, of
And
course.
that's what you're paying for. You are paying for the luxury of me being able to come in and hit the ground running without needing to ask you one question. You can just get on with your job.
Yeah.
If you want to pay less, and have someone who needs a bit more hand holding, needs a bit more guidance, that's fine.
Yeah.
Likewise, there's probably someone even more experienced than me who's going to be even more expensive. So
Yeah.
I like to think I've benchmarked myself. I did a lot of research, and I do highly recommend people look at, there's loads of benchmarking data reports out there,
Yeah.
the sort of freelancer stats for each year. So I did do that. But I suppose I did just want to be transparent and say to people, this is what I'm worth.
I think it's worth it. I mean, we were actually discussing it across my team yesterday, and it was all about, we're working with numerous solo entrepreneurs, encouraging them to start and run a business. That's what Go Solo movement is all about. But actually, it's also helping inspire and empower them to actually know their worth. It's knowing that they have value. They don't need to constantly undercut. If obviously they are seen almost, maybe premium is a word too often bandied about, but actually people are very honest and say, this is what I'm worth. I think sometimes you find your level from that as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. And don't get me wrong, I had a gentleman phone me up one day just to tell me that Bill Gates called him and said he could do it for half the price. It was the most bizarre phone call I ever had. My response was, sorry, hi, did you want to talk about something? And he was like, no, I just thought I'd ring you to tell you that you're really expensive. And I couldn't believe it, because I was like, the audacity, like, how dare you?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think especially within the creative industry, there's this big thing that people expect to get a discount or get money off or negotiate. I've never once considered to do that with, my solicitor or my accountant. Like, they tell me that this is what the service costs. And I'm like, okay, you've
Yeah.
told me that's what the price is. I'm not going to go back to you like, can we haggle?
Yeah.
But people seem to expect to be able to do that in the creative industry. It's weird.
It is, actually, you're completely right. Actually, that's a really great analogy for it in terms of other kind of like businesses. Yeah, it's literally just like, look, are you paying for this law firm? This is what it is. Accountancy, yeah. But like you said, in the creative industry, you're more just like, oh, I think we can get this, or tell me exactly what the results are going to be, or whatever.
You don't walk into Primark and go to the till and say, sorry, can we talk about this? Can I have like, a pound off? Like, they're not going to do it for.
Who knows though? You should see me in some of the foreign souks when I'm away, doing like bartering stuff down. But I think that's really cool. I mean, obviously, it's great that you've been able to set up this business and be fully remote. Just want to kind of mention that guy. Like, I think we live in the world of internet trolls, but you should have complimented the guy on being super retro and being like a phone troll, because who actually picks up the phone actually makes the effort to do that. It's like, sorry, dude, you're too old school for me here. You clearly don't get it. Right, this is really cool, but I want to kind of step back like a few points, because I'm really interested in terms of what actually was that. What was that one decision that made you start your business? What made you say, right, time to go solo? I'm going to go it alone. And where does the passion come from each day to run your business?
So, oh goodness. So I was in a full-time job
Yeah.
the beginning of last year, and obviously COVID hit, and in May I was furloughed, and then in July I was made redundant. And I think I had that really classic redundant or pandundancy, as everyone's calling it. I had that classic redundancy feeling of, oh my God, how am I going to pay my bills? I'm going to lose like my flat, like everything's going to go wrong. So I did what any normal person would do and just applied for every job going, because every single job had like 3,000 candidates applying, so you didn't have the luxury of cherry picking where you wanted to be. And I was very, very fortunate. I picked up a new job within 3 days, and I'm
Wow.
incredibly grateful for that, because so many people were in such horrible situations. However, due to the fact that I just kind of threw my CV everywhere, I ended up working with an agency, and it's the worst working environment I've ever been in my whole life. It was incredibly toxic.
Yeah.
They weren't interested in employee well-being at all, and I was absolutely miserable. And like from day one, I came home after my first day crying my eyes out, said to my fiance, I was like, what have I done? Like,
Yeah.
this is horrid. And that was really the catalyst. I kind of should thank them really for being so awful.
Sometimes you need those moments though, to actually
Yeah.
make you go, this isn't me, this isn't what I want to do in my life. Is this why I was put
Yeah.
on planet Earth?
I definitely should thank them, because it was sort of, that was the catalyst for me. And but I knew, and I think like a lot of solopreneurs, you find yourself in this catch 22, right? Where you want to earn enough money to be able to quit your job so that you can go solo, but at the same time you can't earn enough because you're working a full-time job.
Yeah.
So I essentially worked 2 full-time jobs in tandem. So I would do my day at work, and during like my lunch break, or on the train home, I'd be taking calls. I would work till 11 o'clock at night, and that's not me trying to be all kind of like humble brag or anything, but that's just what you got to do. Like, everyone does it. You have to do it. And I'd set myself a target of, once I reach this amount of money that I'm bringing in, that's when I can quit my job. And the day I got a contract from a new client, I literally emailed my boss, said, really sorry, but I'm not going to be coming back. Sort of, see you later.
I like that. I'm expecting some kind of like, meltdown and the kind of thing, like you could take your job and shove it. It's just,
I mean, don't get me wrong, I definitely wanted to go out in kind of flames, like, a blaze of glory.
I was hoping
However,
so.
you never know who you might end up working with later in
Yeah,
life.
of course.
So I think, people within creative industries, like others, they talk, and I didn't want to make any enemies. So, they weren't the greatest, but maybe they just weren't the right fit for me. Obviously there's a lot of people who do work there who are very happy. So, but yeah, I kind of said, sorry, not sorry, not coming back. See you later. And that was sort of officially the launch of my business, and that was on the 11th of October last year.
Right.
So it really hasn't been that long, and it's kind of gone from one strength to strength, and it's gone a bit bananas this year, to be honest. I don't really know how it's grown this quickly.
Well, yeah, and I mean, like, it's a really great story, because actually, out of the pandemic, there are so many opportunities to be had as well. And like you said, although you might think there's some kind of slowdown, like you said, I think from a lot of companies that have had to cut their cloth, marketing's gone, edit content, whatever has gone, you're actually able to fill that. And then there's going to be a rebound happening now anyway, because there's pent up consumer demand. So actually, it's like you can offer those services right now, and it's perfect time for you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this is it. Marketing is always the first to go in a crisis, right? Because we're seen as overheads. It's sometimes very difficult to prove the return on investment compared to fee earners, the sales team, so they can quantify what they're doing with money coming into the business, especially during a global pandemic when no one knows what's happening. But yeah, so it has left those gaps for me to just slot into. And I'm very conscious that when the economy eventually recovers, my business could all fall off a cliff. So I'm working my absolute tushy off right now to build the business up to a point where, hopefully, if the economy recovers, which I appreciate is better for everyone, but if my business suffers, I will have so many contacts I can call on, different people that I've networked with, that I can say, look, you're still looking for someone, do you need any support? That hopefully it won't have too much of an impact.
I think you'll be all right. And I'm not just saying this to everybody, but I think you will. I think, you work out, obviously you've had great traction already, appreciate the use of the word tushy before as well. And also I think it's kind of like cool that, you said you're building up the contacts. You will find your niche. You've got to kind of keep working on this and have great portfolio, I guess, show the results, and, you'll get it. I think we're going to be talking about a long tail here in terms of people feeling the confidence to rehire their marketing departments. So I think you'll have more than enough time to get properly established then, potentially even growing out your team. But, we'll cover that later on. Obviously you've kind of, and I mean, it's a nice possible way, fallen into starting your own business, but, was starting your own business ever a goal or a dream one day? Did you say to yourself at, 15, whatever, like one day I'll run my own business and I'll do X, Y, and Z? Tell me about
So I think it was probably always there in my subconscious that I thought, especially later on in life when I had a family, that maybe that would be a really flexible way for me to work. And obviously we're talking about pre-COVID, where businesses just weren't flexible in terms of working at all. That would
that.
probably be different now anyway. But I think it was never so much about starting my own business as much as I always knew I wasn't a very good employee.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in the way of I was never good at my job.
Yeah.
I was always destined to be my own boss, and I'm sure that all my previous managers would agree with that. In that I like to be in control of a
Yeah.
situation, like to have that overview and have a baby and a project and it's mine and I have the ownership of it, but also just a responsibility, I think,
Mm.
as well. Like, any business you work in, you always answer to someone else, and someone else always has the overall responsibility, no matter
Yeah.
what level you get to in a business. There's always a bigger boss. So to be able to have that for me has been absolutely amazing. And I never knew that that's what I needed for this much fulfillment.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that that side of it would come with this as well. So it's,
That's
yeah.
great. I mean, fulfillment as well, like you're saying, after what, 6, 7 months now, is incredible to feel that, because this is, we're constantly talking to entrepreneurs here at, Subkit and Go Solo about, building sustainable businesses. And it's not just all about the money. Okay, we need to cover our bills. We need to obviously have, we always talk, I think $72,000 is like the dream amount, supposedly, in the world somebody could be earning a year to just get that sweet spot. You've got more than enough to pay your bills, I guess, unless you're living in like Hong Kong or somewhere. But, like you can do everything you want, still have room for holidays, but hopefully you can develop a work-life balance that works for you as well, and the fulfillment element as well. It's not just all about the kind of paycheck each month.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, to kind of put it on two sides of the coin, because obviously there's, it's not all lightness and sweetness and roses.
Mm.
There's two sides to it. Yes, there's the monetary side and the fulfillment side. And don't get me wrong, I am so grateful. This is a moment, this is an opportunity, and I'm 100% grabbing it, because I mean, because of this and because I took this chance, I've earned enough that I can get a mortgage. And
Yeah.
that was this time last year, that was not a reality for my partner and
Mm.
I, with the
Yeah.
money I was earning in my previous job. So that's amazing. And those are all positives. But the amount of times that I would spend crying to my partner because I had serious imposter syndrome and I was doubting myself. And I was like, why are these people paying me money to do work for them? Like, what's wrong with them? Like, why are they
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
this? I don't get it. I don't understand. And he'd say, because you're good. I'm like, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
And I think this is the thing. People, you see this stuff on Instagram and you see what's going out, and people see these podcasts. It's like, oh wow, she's done a business, but it's tough. It's really
Mm.
tough, and you don't see all those kind of things in the background that are happening. And I think the stress that does come with launching your business, it is incredibly real. And I mean, I've done this whilst also having my wedding cancelled due to COVID. My alopecia got so bad from the stress of COVID that all my hair fell out, so I now wear
Yeah.
wigs all the time.
Yeah.
That's something I've been really, really passionate about talking to people about, because I think that's a real thing that people are really struggling with at the
Yeah.
moment. And some people for the first time. So there's really real struggles, as well as, to the flip side of the positives, that I think is really important for people to talk about as well.
And I think it's great to highlight that as well, because it's not all roses, like you said. It's like we all wish, but I think it's a constant. I'm trying to think where I saw this diagram, but it's kind of like your expectation of where the business should be. It's like point A to point B, but it's actually up, down, up, down. And I think there's a little stick figure, and he's gone through like kind of like a big trough, and then it's like up and whatever. It's kind of the realities of running a business. We all wish that it was so easy, but actually that's part of the journey that solopreneurs are on as well. Just want to have a couple of quick questions before obviously we go into, digging deep into your skills, looking at kind of some of those amazing things that you can share with other entrepreneurs out there. But, to talk about you starting your business as well, do you come from an entrepreneurial family as well? Like, do you have that support network, or is this like literally now that you're, I'm saying black sheep in the family, that you're kind of going for it and making this happen?
I suppose I am a black sheep, probably. No, I don't think there is anyone entrepreneurial in my family. I know certainly on my dad's side, he's very salesy, so that's
Yeah,
probably. But to me, I just call that the gift of the gab,
yeah,
personally, just being charming and delightful.
yeah.
But no, yeah, I think I am kind of the first one, certainly, that's had my own business and
Yeah,
branched out on my own like that. So my mum's so proud of me, like so incredibly proud. She tells me all the time. But
that's good.
my biggest cheerleader's my fiance. I couldn't have done any of this without his support.
That's great.
He's like my PA, my coffee maker, my cat. Like, he does everything. He's just fab. So one day I'll make
Wow.
him COO.
I'm gonna say this is impressive. Actually, it's like that's quite a career trajectory as well, from coffee maker to CEO. But we've all got to start somewhere.
Exactly.
And so you're a pioneer, obviously, in your family, and this is great. There's no perfect answer for this in the slightest. It's great that you're going out on going solo. And the kind of question I always ask all entrepreneurs who are like, I'm loving this, I'm doing this. Again, you're in the, say, honeymoon period, but do you think you could ever go back to a proper salaried position now? Like, and take a job?
Oh, I mean, you're asking me this right now when my business is doing really, really well, and the answer is probably no. If the economy recovers and it all falls off a cliff, then who knows? I could go and get a part-time job at Asda.
Yeah,
I think the thing is, it's not, if if times calls for it, of course, like, you do what you got to do to support, yourself and your family. And I think certainly, for me, I wouldn't ever want to, but that's just because I'm loving the freedom that I have with this
yeah,
business now. Actually, the fact that, thinking further ahead, when we do have a family, I can make this business work around my life, instead of the other way around, which has always been, I've been, a slave to someone else's wishes, in the
yeah.
sense of, you have to be here at this time, you have to be at this exact place. Whereas actually, if I want to work at 11 o'clock at night, or
Mm.
1 o'clock in the morning, if I can't sleep, like, it doesn't matter when or where I get work done. So
Yeah.
I'd like to think I won't ever go back, but who knows? I'll never say never.
Yeah, okay, this is good. Yeah, just in case, like, I don't know,
Yeah.
Mars Wrigley or whatever gives you a phone and say, we've got this contract here, CMO of our global operations, and you go, actually, sounds like too much effort. I could
I
say,
think
yeah,
if it was Mars, like, if I was going to get a ton of free chocolate, that's a different story.
that would
So
be the dream. Actually, yeah, you're just like, pay me in this. I'll take some cash as well. I still want some time to do my own stuff.
yeah.
Amazing. So, like I said, we're going to talk a little bit more now about maybe some of your tips for other entrepreneurs. Now, Subkit and Go Solo is all about helping people build subscription businesses, sustainable subscription building businesses. And, we work with yogis, consultants, personal trainers, nutritionists, anybody who's got a great service-based business, but they tend to be small business owners or solo entrepreneurs. But obviously budgets are fairly low. So it's kind of like, it's not like somebody's got like a 25,000 a month kind of marketing budget. So I'd love your tips and really about how people could get started or how they could tweak what they're currently doing. So using your exact own website, and this is always puts people on the spot here as well. Now you're like, oh, did I say that? Edgy content is something which you say that you're proud of delivering. That's something which really stands out on your website. How can people be creating content that is edgy, that stands out, whether that's as a lead magnet, whether it's their audience? Tell me more.
Okay, so I'm unapologetically me on social media, and I have the mouth of a sailor. Most of my social media posts start with a swear word or an aubergine emoji, something like that.
Yeah, works for
Um,
me.
well, but you know what? It works for you and it works for me, but it might not work for someone else. And I think that's
Yeah.
one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give people is, I hate the word, it's so kind of like, but try and be authentic, because I can put something out, but if someone else who that's not their natural kind of cadence, if they put that out, it's going to seem really jarring.
Mm,
But for me, that's the kind of clients that I end up working with, people who are,
yeah.
not necessarily their brand is like that, but they as people are like
Mm,
that, so we work really well together. And for me, if I put out a post that has like a swear word in massive capital letters at the beginning, and I lose 20% of my followers, I'm totally fine with that, because the 80% that are left are super
Mm,
engaged. They're ready to potentially, buy.
yeah,
And I think that's something for people to really bear in mind, is test and try a little bit, and don't be scared if you do lose followers.
mm,
But don't be afraid to have an opinion on things. People think that they can't have an opinion on social media,
yeah,
for in case people say mean things to them in the comments. It's like, hey, if they're talking about you, that's successful,
yeah.
because you've actually got people talking about what you're saying, whether it's good or bad, they're talking about you. So in
Yeah.
my eyes, that's the winner.
I think that works really well. And I guess it's kind of probably going back to square one, maybe for some businesses. I mean, obviously, some businesses are totally rocking it in terms of social and everything, but it's probably looking almost at developing a loose set of brand guidelines, or just generally what you're trying to get at. Whether you're running a wine business, it's like, who's your angle? Like, how edgy do you want to make it? Or if you're a yogi, then, maybe what gets cut through obviously fits in with you yourself and what you're trying to do, but maybe gets cut through beyond some of the more traditional methods.
Yeah, this comes back to tone of voice, right?
Mm,
So for any businesses that haven't established a tone of voice kind of, or any kind of tone of voice guidelines, that's something I highly recommend. And when I start working with a business, if they don't have that,
yeah.
then we have to sort that, because I can only go off of what I'm provided with. Otherwise, I'm going to just talk to your customers in my natural rhythm. Yeah, you don't want that. But
Yeah.
ultimately, it's just about providing, like you say, really, it's not hard and fast rules. It's just maybe a few kind of keywords, to sort of say we are cheeky and playful,
Mm,
or we're formal and educational. Or even a kind of few sort of, we use words like this and not this, we talk to our customers like this and not this. So it's just really highlighting how you actually want to be perceived by people.
yeah.
And the thing is, every piece of content in my eyes should either inspire, delight, or educate. It needs to hit one of those three markers. And it doesn't matter what your tone of voice is, you
Mm,
can still hit those three. Even if you are like a super, super corporate business and you need to be really formal, you can still hit those three markers. But
yeah.
I think that my biggest piece of advice for businesses is definitely, sometimes I speak to business owners and I'll talk to them about social content, and they'll say, oh no, I don't want a gift going out on there, like, we're not like that, I don't like that.
Yeah.
And I'll say, you're not supposed to like it, you're not the
You're not the
buyer, you're,
target audience.
you're not the consumer,
Yeah.
exactly. And they're like, but I don't like it. And it's like, yeah, but you don't have to. It's trying to
Yeah.
get that across them. And I think this is the thing, sometimes people need to get out of their own heads and really look at their buyer personas and their demographics. And this
Mm,
comes back to research. If they've not done that research and the tone of voice beforehand, that needs to be done before you can do anything cool or edgy.
yeah. That's amazing advice, to be quite honest. I think as well, you know, if you have a business and, like you said, if you're actually putting out great content, then you will attract the right kind of people. There is no point in trying to be something that you're not really as well. So persona work, making sure that you've got some kind of strategy. And I guess it's even maybe comes down to content curation. It's kind of like the stuff that you're sharing will help you naturally get that brand, because actually you, I guess, probably having in mind where you want to take the company, even if you haven't written it down, you've got some kind of idea about what you're trying to convey and the attitude and stuff like that. So yeah, brilliant. That sounds great. And I also want to kind of jump on, because I know obviously you do a lot of community management support as well, and talking about community. Community is such a massive, I wouldn't say buzz term, because community's been around, but it's definitely community driven businesses, community led businesses talking about people, and sharing the experiences of people and connecting them is so, so important. But, you know, I try to encourage people who I work with to think of community as everything, like whether it's your social media channels, it's your mailing list, it's any touch points, it's whatever. It's basically your audience, your leads. They could literally be turned into kind of community. But what do you think makes a great community manager? And for a community-led business, what would be a great kind of initial strategy there?
So my first thing that I'll always say to anyone is, if a customer has chosen a particular platform to speak to you on, that's the way you need to communicate with them.
Mm.
The amount of times that I'll see, someone messages a Facebook page and the reply that they get is, "Oh, great, thanks for that. Can you send us an email? Or can you give us a phone call?"
All
And
the
it's like,
time. Yeah.
it's like They have chosen to communicate with you through Facebook because that's the way that they feel comfortable, or
Yeah.
Twitter, or Instagram DMs, or Carrot Pigeon, whatever
Yeah.
they've chosen. That's the way they have chosen. Your customer's chosen that, and no business can be so arrogant as to say, "Well, actually, we want to communicate with them on this platform instead."
Yeah. Yeah.
It
It
just
does
doesn't
my
make
head in
sense.
that, actually, where you have written a Facebook message or something and you think, well, why are you on that platform if you're not willing to do it? Like if you have that as your another shop window, then you should be willing to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of it probably comes down to resources, if I'm honest.
Mm,
Especially when brands aren't sure what they need to be doing with social, they go in and they go, right, we need a Facebook, a LinkedIn, a TikTok, a Snapchat, we need all of this. And then they go, oh shit, we've got no one to run it.
yeah.
We've got no one to look after it. And then obviously the customer service starts slipping, no one's engaging with the community,
Yeah.
and it all starts going, upside down. And I think definitely making sure you've got enough bodies to actually be hands-on with your customers is a really, really important thing to bear in mind. If
Yeah.
you're just starting out and you don't have that resource, just obviously you'll have done your research. You should know where your customers are. They're not going to be on all of the platforms anyway.
Yeah.
Everyone should know this by now. Each platform's for a different type of customer, but then it's not just about hitting like on a customer's comment. It's about actually starting a conversation with them, or
Mm,
sending them a link to they've made a comment, oh, you'll like this product as well then if you like that one.
yeah.
Or if you've got a community and a group as well, actually sharing content, exclusive content with a secret group on Facebook maybe.
Yeah.
Anything like that where you can kind of really get a conversation going, or user generated content, actually sharing content from your followers on your pages.
Mm.
Those are all really, really important ways to kind of keep it going 360. Yes, it's definitely all encompassing for sure.
So you're kind of like more of a facilitator and, I think I stole this from that Steve Jobs movie, but, almost like playing the orchestra, really. Do you know what I mean? Like it's actually moving stuff around as opposed to actually just feeling like everything has to be through the prism of yourself. It's more like maybe you take 20% of it, but actually the rest of it should be curation and sharing and the like as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think it's like, what you said there was a really lovely analogy. I think I always think of community management as do you remember Roller Coaster Tycoon?
I do very much.
Where you would constantly be kind of adjusting the prices of your rides, and the customers would come and then they'd run away because you put them up, the prices up, but then you put a special offer on in the park entrance and they'd come back in, and
Yeah.
you're constantly testing and trialing and moving things constantly. That's how I see community management. It's about gaining feedback, moving parts, moving pieces, keeping the business going essentially, because otherwise if all your social media channels is broadcast, if it's literally a one-way message, what is the point of you having those pages? You might as well get rid of them all and put your investment and resources into something else.
Yeah. And when do you think it's important to maybe put a sales message in? I want to play devil's advocate here. Do you think actually it might come from that it will ambiently, organically happen from what you're doing? Or do you think there has to be a balance between sales, which this could be using newsletter or using social or using your one URL or link tree or whatever? When do you basically start bringing up the conversation about sales?
So I think it does depend on your industry and what your business is as well. If you've got a really sexy product to sell, and people are following, say, your Instagram page, those people are already super engaged, right? Because they're following your page. It's a very visual page. There's actual pictures of products, and it links back to a shop where they can buy them instantly. So I think in that sense, having those kind of sales messages is really appropriate. But then, for example, with my business, if I just posted out on LinkedIn, oh, do you need help with your social media? Contact me today. Like, people are going to be like, what?
Yeah.
It has to be much more subtle than that.
Yeah.
And it's more about sharing information that solves people's pain points.
Mm.
So the example I always give is, if you're a company that sells hair dryers, you don't want to put something out that just says, buy our hairdryer, we're amazing, we have the best hairdryer, we're award-winning hairdryer.
Yeah.
You want to put out a piece of content that says how to style your hair for, date night. And then what you do is you list all the products that help style your hair, and you get a stylist to give a comment and some advice. And then you sneak in somewhere in that your hairdryer.
Yeah.
And it's really subtle and really simple, and you haven't had to scream in people's faces, buy me.
Yeah. Right. Well, when I'm setting up my new hairdryer business, because I'll take that at face
There you
value.
go.
There you go.
You can have that one free.
I've got it cracked. I've just saved myself some serious money here, guys. So it's just very, very cool. And, I guess probably the final kind of tip I really am interested in kind of digging a bit deep is, what's your thoughts on, I mean, I guess it'll come down to resources and budgets. What's your thoughts on SEO and long-term reach? Like if I'm a yogi, say I run a business and I'm running classes each week, do I want to be going more for the instant kind of hit? Do you know what I mean, like that? Or should I be blogging regularly to drive traffic? I know it may be, again, you say like it depends on what kind of industry, but like how much time should I be spending on more like long form kind of writing if, again, I'm doing it myself?
Yeah, so SEO is really important, and I am a big advocate of blogs because they definitely do drive traffic to your site. And I think the thing that people struggle with is writing for both Google and for humans.
Yeah.
You tend to find that articles are either written with SEO in mind, and you can tell when someone's not an SEO copywriter. They're either written with just keywords stuffed everywhere, and like every
Yeah.
fourth word is a keyword, and you're like, this doesn't even make sense anymore. Or there's no headers, there's no subheaders, there's no keywords, there's no actual thought to structure, and it's a lovely piece, but it's just a puff piece. There's nothing there that's going to drive anything. So it obviously, one of the things I'm like, oh, just hire me, like I can do both for you. But for people who don't, there's a really, really great set of tools out there that you can use. One of them is Hemingway Editor. That's going to help with writing for humans, right? So that helps with things like passive and active voice, whether you've got enough like adverbs, things like that. And then so you can run that through that, and it will give you all the highlights. It'll tell you everything. Then the second one is SEOreviewtools.com, and you can use their content analysis tool, and essentially you put in the keywords, and not only will it tell you if your actual article is SEO friendly, it also allows you to put in the description and the slug, so you can actually do your metadata as well. And people forget about the back end as well. So when they're thinking about SEO, you can write a blog, but if you don't make sure that your image has alt text on it, or it doesn't have a meta description, the little excerpt that comes up when people search on Google, if it doesn't have the information in there, Google's just not it's going to bypass it. So I definitely recommend those as really great starting points.
That's really good advice. I think from experience back in the old days when I obviously wasn't doing this, I worked for numerous startups myself, when I've been using, say, something like a WordPress site for myself, using something like Yoast has been such an amazing plugin because like all the stuff you just mentioned is great. Like it really kind of gets the sweet spot. When I've been writing blogs for us at Subkit, I had to make the decision early on, like, am I writing for SEO or am I writing for this to actually be a real human piece, which was actually trying to describe the company? And I kind of, put some keywords in there. Obviously, we want some kind of long tail on this. But I think for us as well, it was a case of saying, right, this is a blog which is going to talk about the values of the company or the industry we're operating in or whatever. It's a great kind of, it's all about looking at the why you're doing these. It was more of like, can this convey to our new hires exactly why they should join? Can this convey to the outside world what we're trying to build and why? If I'd have just stuffed it full of keywords, then it probably would have just literally just been like, what the hell is this? Like, this is not an article. It's literally just like a search. So getting that balance right, I think, is so important. So again, I love the fact that you've linked to those two. I'm going to link it obviously in our
I'm
blog.
not on any kind of commission or anything, so I should
This
be.
This is why you send me the URL thing over as well. You're like, oh, this does look like an affiliate link. Right, you'll be pleased to know we're now moving on to our rapid fire round. So again, don't feel like it just has to be one word answers. You can give a little bit of flavor to it, if you just want to kind of, explain yourself. But going to hit you up with this first one now. Who are your favorite entrepreneurs in life and why?
So I actually really love the guys at Skinny Food, Wayne Starkey and James Whiting, because I think that what they've been doing with Skinny Food Co. has just been absolutely amazing. The sort of growth that they've been achieving is just fantastic. I'm a massive customer, fan, loyal ambassador.
Half of their, I think half of their money comes from our house, actually. My wife's constantly got a box arriving from them as well.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, no, I've got probably about 12 bottles of the barista coffee syrup
Yeah.
in my house right now. So I'm pretty sure I should have own shares or something in the company by
I'm
now.
sure
But
they'll crowdfund at some point. You'll be able to get involved.
honestly, but you know what? They just seem to be going from strength to strength, and actually they're really up for trying lots of different things, and what they've been
Yeah.
doing on social is really good. So, and I like the fact that they are founders that understand they have to use social media, because too often founders just think, well, I've got a social media team, they'll just do the company pages and
Yeah.
everyone else can do it. The young ones can do it. And they're just totally engaged with the business, and they talk to their
Mm.
customers on a daily basis, which I love it.
I think you're right. I mean, like some businesses do a great job of that. This isn't, I think this, who do the kind of like fake meat kind of parts. I think they've got a really great social strategy. You can really buy into that and it feels very natural. There's one called Dead Happy as well, which is like
Oh yeah, I
life
love
insurance. But yeah, but exactly. They're selling life insurance. I mean, who the hell wants to follow that on Instagram? But actually, it's such a good page. It kind of transcends it and makes you think, and it makes you start thinking, oh, maybe I should be doing something a bit different. So I like what you just said there as well. So yeah, if it's not Amazon, it's Skinny usually coming to our house, basically. So
it.
I think Jeff Bezos will be able to buy a new yacht due to all the stuff
Oh,
that's
I
with
know,
Curry
me
this
and
year.
you put together, yeah, for sure. No,
I
and I
think
have to
so.
say, I definitely admire Dead Happy, like their copywriting. I love it.
Yeah.
It's definitely me. Like I totally resonate with that.
Yeah. It cuts through, doesn't it? It makes a boring kind of business into something and it's very kind of, and I say this literally right on the kind of cusp of turning really old, but like, very millennial, heavy focused in terms of like, if people know they probably need life insurance, but why go through just one of the older businesses that's been around for
Yeah.
a few hundred years? Why not do something a bit different? So, in life, who's your most inspiring person and why?
Oh, I don't think I can say one particular person sort of has inspired me, I guess, but the one person I follow the most and am most interested to see anytime they talk is Dan Kelsall from Offended Marketing. He is just an absolute legend, and he once replied to one of my comments, and I fangirled completely. It was amazing. But his book, which is called Fucking Good Content, is amazing. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
took it with me to Africa when I went on holiday, and I read it by the pool, and it was just brilliant. And he just, I think similarly to me, he kind of doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
He doesn't care
It's
what
just,
people think. He's just unapologetically him. He's the same with clients as he is with his mates down the pub, and that's exactly how I am. And I think
yeah.
that's why I really resonate with him.
That's great. And also, like, are there any other business books and online resources you'd maybe point people towards that are in your kind of industry, whether that's marketing, content, community, like, what other places do you think would give people a really good kind of boost?
Yeah, so definitely in terms of helping me feel more confident with sales is Benjamin Dennehy, who's the UK's most hated sales trainer. I know, great name, but honestly,
Yeah.
find him on YouTube because he's absolutely amazing. And just watching his videos, sometimes like, I haven't had to cold call people, but I feel like if I do have to cold call people, I will have so
Mm.
much confidence because of him to do
Yeah.
that. So if that's something within your business that you're really struggling with, definitely recommend him. Certainly from the copywriting side, obviously my main background was recruitment marketing. So certainly on that side, it's Mitch Sullivan. And again, he's someone who's very unapologetically himself.
Mm.
But he's kind of the only real person who offers proper copywriting training for recruiters, which is really, really needed
Yeah.
in my eyes. And yeah, he just kind of tells it as it is, without smoke screens, and is just really honest about everything.
Brilliant. That's all really good. And again, that's going into our big blogs that we're putting together here. A very, very long list. I think this is episode 17 of our podcast. So it's going to be a big list by the time we get up to
Brilliant.
episode 100. Um, I know you've only been doing this for 7, 8 months, whatever, but do you think would be one thing that you could do every single day that would have the most impact for your business?
Oh, probably just wake up on time. No, I think I have definitely utilized the fact that I now can work flexibly. And for me, getting up in the morning is always a struggle. I'm a night owl, you know,
Yeah.
I struggle to sleep. So I can be awake till 1, 2 in the morning. I'm absolutely fine. That's just my natural circadian rhythm, I think. So I use that luxury to do it, but I probably lose out on an hour or two every day that I could do a bit more. So I'd say, yeah, probably get up a little bit earlier
Oh,
each
that's
day.
good. There doesn't have to be like, oh, I do content marketing, whatever. If that's what you think would have the most impact. But it's true. I think the circadian rhythm is so important to look after. I mean, I have kids, so I'm up at 7 every morning, you know, so I can get to a point where I can get them ready and take them to school in the mornings. But then actually, naturally, I'm a night owl. So I tend to kind of prefer working as well, or especially when I run my own business, working later into the night. So kind of like the rubber has to hit the road at some point in the middle where I'm trying to make sure I can get up, but then also not working ridiculous hours late at night. So trying to definitely work on myself being able to finish at a certain point and
Yeah.
make myself more working the day so as I can have some kind of chill time before bed. Because again,
Well,
if
but
I
you
go
have
to
to look
bed,
after your health for sure. Like it's important. You can't run a business if you're not, you know, looking after yourself. So if that's
exactly.
your natural thing, take
Yeah.
advantage of
And I
it.
think sleep is so important as well. You know, like, you know, we were chatting with somebody the other day who was talking about the emphasis on sleep, but it is so important. You know, like we all feel much better after a great night's sleep. So that's the kind of dream. 15 hours a night would do. So,
Yeah,
at
I don't have
least,
kids yet, so we'll wait and see if mine gets if mine
yeah.
changes.
Well, yeah, I don't want to, you know, do a, you know, TLDR, but it will. So we'll see. Um, what do you think you would maybe do differently again? I mean, you might not be someone who looks back, but say like setting up your business and getting things off the ground, you know, what do you think maybe you would say to yourself, I could have maybe done that a bit better next time, you know, taking it as a learning.
Honestly, I think it's more the sort of business operations side of things. I think especially when you're running a business where you are both running a business and being the business,
Mm,
sometimes it can be really hard to just get on top of like the admin side of things. So I really wish that I'd got myself an accountant at the very beginning, because that
yeah.
would have saved me a whole lot of stress.
Yeah.
And you know, she recommended, you know, automation software like Zero for me to use for my bookkeeping. And I think a lot of those things that were more admin-y, like I use Toggle to track my time. I
Mm,
find that really, really helpful, especially when I'm on retainer and I'm doing, you know, time-based activities. And I was just manually logging all these things into spreadsheets, and my brain was just ready to burst. I was ready to just chuck my laptop in the ocean because I had that
yeah.
many Excel spreadsheets and I didn't know what they were all for. And all it took was one cell to have an error, and that was it. The whole thing went wrong.
Oh, it's a
So
nightmare.
if you can, I would definitely advise people anything where you can automate, outsource, make your life a bit easier on that side of the business. Just do it straight from
Yeah.
the beginning. Don't sort of think, oh, I'll do that in 6 months when I'm earning more money, like because that's going to make it 10 times harder because you have so
Yeah.
much to do. Get it done at the beginning because then it will save you time in the long run.
Amazing. That's great advice. And what do you do for work-life balance? Some people just laugh at this question and go, "What?" But you know, what sort of stuff do you do on a daily basis to just keep yourself grounded and like, you know, keep it all together, basically?
So and apart from, you know, not getting up on time, I try to adopt a generally standard sort of Monday to Friday similar, because that's when my clients work, so I do
Yeah.
understand that. But at the same time, for me, it's about knowing that actually if I have a dentist appointment, or I need to pop to the shops, or I need to go to the post office, I have the flexibility and the luxury to just go do it. I don't
Yeah.
have to ask someone, I don't have to tell someone, I don't have to think, oh God, I should be back. I need to be back in 15 minutes in case someone notices I'm gone. Like I just
Yeah.
go and do it. And for me, that is the biggest like weight off, knowing that I can just go do whatever I want. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
my partner went to view houses and the estate agent was like, oh, did you get the day off? And I was like, no, I run my own business. I can do what I want. I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
have to ask people for days off. But I think, you know, people have to remember, you know, everyone thinks, oh, it must be really easy, you can just work whenever you want, you don't have to do anything. And it's like, actually,
Mm,
I have to do twice as much as probably someone in a normal job. And
Yeah.
actually, if I want to have a week off on holiday, I'm going to have to do like essentially 3 weeks worth of work in the week
Before you go.
before
Yeah.
to be able to do that, because I don't get holiday pay. So it's,
Yeah.
it's roundabout. I love it.
Yeah, that's great. And I guess, like you said, it seems like you're prioritizing those moments when you do need to have that flexibility as well, which is so strong. How do you respond to setbacks though? Like, I know you've said, back in the old days, the old you before you set up your dream business was like, oh shit, I'm crying on my fiance's, shoulder or whatever, but running your own business now, how do you respond to setbacks? Do you have any kind of hacks or tips? Or you just like, do you know what, screw it, I'm gonna, it'll be all right tomorrow?
So outwardly, for anyone else, I'm like, yeah, come on, let's do it, let's go. But inwardly, I'm like, oh my God, what just happened? I'm like falling apart. I think it's important to be able to fall apart, if I'm honest. And I think actually people really don't talk about the mental health side of starting up a business. Exactly how it can almost like twist your mind and trick you, tell you you're not good enough, make you doubt everything and all the worries you have financially, what's going to happen. It's a lot, and it's a lot to cope. So I would just say make sure you've got a massive support network, because for me, that's how I cope with setbacks. It's my fiance, it's my mum, it's my best friend, it's the people that I can reach out to, who, when I'm being hyper irrational, like, oh my God, this is happening, and I say it to them and they're like, okay, so that's solvable. So let's just go back and talk it out. And then we're like, oh, it's actually, it's not too bad.
Yeah, okay. Support network, and I'll give you my number after this, I could be on hand. It's like, it'll be all right. It's just stay. Tomorrow is a new day. It's just get lots of rest, get in there as well. As an entrepreneur, what does success ultimately mean to you?
Okay, so I'm going to be, I don't know if I'm going to be the one that's like, oh, you're not supposed to say that. But for me, definitely monetary is a big one, because I've always had jobs where I haven't earned a lot. So for me, that's a massive thing. And I'd say it's more the marker of like, you've made it. But in terms of just success in life, for me, I've got a wonderful fiance that I'm going to marry next year, COVID dependent, hopefully. We're buying a house. We've got all this stuff to look forward to. So for me, that's more of a success for me than the monetary things. But the money has allowed me to do those things.
Of
and I think that's really important for people to remember. Money is important. And as much as people will go, oh, it's not about the money, it is about the money. And anyone who says differently is lying.
It's true, because I think, like, people say words like freedom, like whatever, but actually that still comes from actually making enough money to live. It's, some people will say, well, it's actually building a sustainable business so I can go on holiday, 5 times a year. That's great. But like you said, to do that, you need money as well. So I think having that as a North Star in terms of like, maybe not a North Star, it's not a marketing strategy or a strategy to say, I want to make, 100 grand this year, but it's actually to say, well, actually, do you know what? That is going to make sure I have a great life. So this is where I should be aiming as well. I bump into you in the street in 3 or 4 years' time. I say, Jess, how's life going? How's the business? Where do you want it to be in 3 or 4 years' time?
Oh, goodness.
This almost makes our guests just go, oh, actually, right, maybe I should work on a new business plan or something after this. But
it's really tough actually, because for me, in 3-4 years' time, I'm, in theory, will be married and hopefully have 1, maybe 2 babies, which I don't have right now. So actually, potentially things might have slowed down, and I'm kind of okay with that. And I think this is the thing. Right now, what I'm doing with my business and what my goals are, and the money and things, that's what's important to me right now. But ultimately, this business was all about me being able to have a flexible life. And if later on that means having slightly less clients and working slightly less hours, but still doing it alongside having a family, I'm okay with that. I can ramp it up ramp it up and ramp it down depending on when I need it, which is great. So I don't necessarily need to have like branch
team
out
of
into
10
four offices, go to Tokyo. I that would be lovely, don't get me wrong, I'd love an empire. But It's not the be all and end all for me. I just, for me, I just want to be happy in life. And if being happy in business helps me to be happy in life, then that's all good with me.
Great answer. Tick, you nailed that one.
Thanks.
For final question, you'll be pleased to know. But for anybody who's thinking about taking the plunge, whether that's a bit like you kind of said, you started almost like a side hustle, like doing two jobs because they know at the end of the day, they want to also run their own thing full time. Or they're thinking about just saying, do you know what, I either hate my job or I've just been made redundant, that I'm fed up of looking through jobs. What advice would you give to people who are thinking about going solo?
So I'm sure, like most people's answers, it's just do it.
Mm,
But I think you do have to be realistic, and that is something that I would always say to anyone. I couldn't have done what I did if I didn't have, support network around me, people who were there to guide me through it.
mm,
Also, just the contacts that I'd made, people I could call on for advice. When everything went to pot, I could actually call other business owners and ask them, what have you done? What experience have you had? But also making sure you have a monetary safety net. I personally think that that's really, really important. I know people have gone off and done it with a pound, to their pocket, and that's great. But you have to make sure you look after yourself. And if you want to
yeah.
go after a dream, go for it and give it a go. But say to yourself, if I haven't hit X amount of money within, say, 3 months, like, I need to go back and find a job, like, and then maybe try it again later. I think it's important to set yourself those goals early on and
Yeah.
recognize that you need, because you want to look after yourself and make sure you're
Yeah.
covered all bases.
Don't beat yourself up too much about it as well. Like you said, you can always find a hybrid until you get to a tipping
Exactly.
point of success as well. The real final question is, first off, I just want to obviously say thanks for coming on the show today, but where can people find you? Where do you want to point people towards? Your website, socials, you go for it.
So jessicaross.co.uk is my website. I'm on LinkedIn as Jessica Wicks brackets Ross.
Yeah.
So when I actually get married, I'll obviously change that. Twitter, I'm keeping it Welsh, and Instagram, JessWicks24.
Amazing. Right. Well, I'm going to get following after this, which is brilliant. I've really enjoyed our chat today, Jess, because actually, like it's just been, it's a real story that's actually in its kind of, I wouldn't say infancy because, things are going really well, but you can really feel the enthusiasm. It's been very honest. I think there's a lot of people out there who are thinking about doing their own thing, no matter what that interest is. We'll get a lot from today. So Jessica Ross, thanks for coming on the Go Solo show today. And I look forward to catching up with you soon. Take care.
Thank you so much for having me.
No probs. Cheers. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye.